Welcome to Rewired Reader, where information becomes transformation. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this. You're standing in a crowded room, not speaking, not waving your hands, not trying to be noticed. Yet somehow people notice you anyway. Not because you're loud or flashy or demanding attention, but because there is a stillness about you, a quiet strength, a calm that makes others curious. Someone cracks a joke at your expense. Someone else side-eyes your outfit. A third person talks over you without hesitation. Most people would react instantly, defend themselves, over-explain, laugh nervously, or shrink into silence. But you don't. You simply breathe steady, grounded, unbothered. Not because you're disconnected, but because you refuse to let the world control your emotional temperature. That version of you, unshaken, uninterested in performing, powerful without effort, that's the version this book wants to awaken. Not the confident person who needs to prove something. The confident person who doesn't need to prove anything at all. The book that redefined confidence. When this book first surfaced, nobody expected it to change the self-help landscape. No flashy marketing campaign, no celebrity endorsements, no loud promises, just timeless psychology delivered with quiet intensity. Yet slowly, like confidence itself, it spread. Clips began circulating across TikTok, YouTube, podcasts, and book clubs. People quoted lines about emotional independence, stillness, boundaries, silence, and self-respect. It climbed bestseller charts faster than traditional publishing predicted. And in the USA especially, it hit a nerve. Because American culture teaches you to sell yourself, advertise yourself, collect followers, applause, attention. But silently, millions of people were exhausted, tired of pretending, performing, explaining, impressing. This book didn't tell them to be louder, it told them to be rooted. Readers began calling it the Confidence Bible, a survival guide for overthinkers, the manual for emotional self-defense, the quietest but loudest book I've ever read, because it didn't offer motivation, it offered liberation. The author, a former people-pleaser turned observer. The magic begins with the author. Let's call him Jay. Not a celebrity, not a therapist with a perfect life, not a born leader. Just a kid who grew up terrified of disappointing people. He was the student who said yes to every group project, the friend who answered every late-night emotional emergency, the employee who stayed hours after closing because he couldn't say no. Externally, he looked polite, helpful, reliable. Internally, he was crumbling. His days were shaped by what others needed, never by what he desired. He apologized before speaking. He rehearsed sentences before phone calls. He replayed conversations at night, wondering if he sounded stupid, and like so many of us, he thought, if everyone likes me, I'll finally feel secure. Until one day, after abandoning himself one time too many, he realized something devastating. He was liked but not respected, helpful but not valued, present but not personally fulfilled. That moment shattered him, then rebuilt him. He began studying human behavior, psychology, body language, emotional regulation, confidence, boundaries, leadership. But more importantly, he studied himself. Why did silence intimidate him? Why did no feel violent? Why did other people's opinions feel like oxygen? Over years of reflection, practice, and discomfort, he made a profound discovery. Confidence isn't loud, confidence is ownership. Not ownership of others, ownership of yourself. This book is that journey, distilled, sharpened, gifted. The myth of loud confidence society has sold us the wrong image. Confidence equals the loud one in the room, the one telling the jokes, the one dominating conversations, the one posting every achievement online. But think about the loudest person you know. Are they truly confident or simply afraid of silence? This book flips the script. Confidence is not volume. Confidence is not performance. Confidence is not constant visibility. Confidence is calmness under pressure. Confidence is choosing silence instead of defensiveness. Confidence is not reacting just because someone wants you to. Confidence is realizing, I don't need to win every moment to win my life. That kind of strength doesn't shout, it resonates. It doesn't ask for attention, it naturally receives it. The first transformation. Stop explaining yourself. Think back to this week. You were running late, and instead of saying, thank you for waiting, you launched into a 5-minute excuse tour. Traffic, alarm, spilled coffee, phone died, not because they needed to know, but because you feared judgment. Or someone questioned a decision you made, a breakup, a career shift, a personal choice. And suddenly you were offering a full documentary. Well, see, the thing is, I've been thinking about it a while, and actually what happened was, not because they deserved an explanation, but because you wanted approval. This book reveals the quiet truth. Over-explaining isn't communication. Over-explaining is fear. It says, please accept me. Please don't misunderstand me. Please see me as good. But confident people understand something different. Your life is not a courtroom and you are not on trial. So instead of, I'm sorry I can't make it, it's just that I've been so busy and I won't be able to make it, but thank you. Short, clean, complete. And then the hardest part, silence. Because silence is where confidence breathes. At first, your nervous system will panic. You'll want to fill the space, soften the message, justify your existence. But if you sit in that discomfort long enough, you'll learn something life-changing. Your decisions do not require permission slips. And the moment you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you stop handing out ownership of your self-worth. The second transformation, rewrite your inner voice. There is a voice inside you, not the one you speak with, but the one you live with. And for many people, that voice is crueler than any person they've ever met. You're not enough, they're judging you, you always mess things up, don't try, you'll embarrass yourself. If someone else spoke to you the way your mind does, you'd cut them out of your life. But because the voice is internal, you tolerate it or worse, believe it. This book introduces a radical insight. Confidence doesn't begin with accomplishments. Confidence begins with self-conversation. Because whether you realize it or not, you are always affirming something, either your fear or your strength. So the author challenges you, for 30 days, speak these 3 lines out loud every morning. I respect myself. I can handle what comes today. I don't need anyone's permission to move forward. Not for motivation, for reprogramming, because the brain doesn't respond to truth or lies, it responds to repetition. The beliefs you repeat become the beliefs you live. And once your inner voice shifts from enemy to ally, your external life follows. If this resonates, if you've spent years fighting battles inside your own head, support this channel, support this movement, and support your own growth, hit subscribe. Because you deserve to hear a voice inside you that builds instead of destroys. The third transformation, confidence requires self-respect. Here's a truth many people avoid. You cannot feel confident if you don't respect yourself. Not temporarily, not performatively, not publicly. Self-respect is the quiet foundation beneath every powerful person. Without it, confidence becomes an act, exhausting, unstable, dependent on outside response. Self-respect looks like keeping promises you make to yourself, not abandoning your needs for approval, not lowering your standards to avoid being alone, not staying where you are disrespected. It doesn't require grand gestures. It's built in tiny daily choices. You say you'll read for 10 minutes and you do. You tell yourself you'll go for a walk and you follow through. You decide you're done with a toxic dynamic and you actually leave. These micro moments whisper to your subconscious, I can trust me. And once you trust yourself, you stop begging others to validate you, because confidence doesn't come from people respecting you. Confidence comes from respecting yourself first and letting the world adjust accordingly. The fourth transformation, release the need to be liked. This might be the hardest one because it's wired into us. Humans are social. Acceptance once meant survival. But today, we're not fighting tigers, we're fighting opinions. You know the feeling, you send a text, they take too long to reply, your brain panics. Someone disagrees with you, you soften your stance to avoid tension. You walk into a room and instantly start shape-shifting to fit in. Because somewhere deep inside, a fearful voice whispers, if they don't like me, I'm unsafe. But here's the truth the book delivers with clarity. Being liked is not the same as being respected. People like you when you're comfortable for them. People respect you when you're comfortable being yourself. Confidence isn't about making everyone happy. Confidence is realizing, you may like me or not, but either way I remain me. Some people will be threatened by your boundaries. Some will misinterpret your quiet. Some will leave when you stop overgiving. Let them. Because losing people who only wanted the shrinking version of you isn't a loss, it's alignment. The goal isn't to be liked by everyone. The goal is to be liked by yourself while being fully seen. In this chapter of your transformation, you've entered the world of calm, quiet, grounded confidence. You've learned that confidence begins not in the spotlight, but in the unseen. In the decisions you make, in the thoughts you allow, in the boundaries you hold, in the silence you no longer fear. And soon we'll go even deeper into presence, body language, emotional leadership, silence, discomfort, and the calm strength that makes people pay attention without you asking for it. Whenever you're ready, we'll continue. And remember, confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you choose one unshaken moment at a time. You've already begun shifting something inside you, even if quietly. You've started noticing when you over-explain. You've caught your inner voice trying to tear you down. and you've begun questioning why other people's approval had so much power over your life. Now we go deeper into how dangerous confidence looks, moves, speaks, and exists in the real world. Because confidence isn't just a belief, it's a presence. Your body speaks before you do walk into any room, a conference meeting, a dinner table, a gym, a friend's birthday party, and before you open your mouth, people already feel something. Not because they're rude or judgmental, but because the human brain is wired to evaluate safety and hierarchy instantly. Your posture, your breathing, your pace, your eye contact, your stillness or fidgeting. That's the first impression, not your words. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people's bodies accidentally communicate insecurity. They shrink into themselves. They speak too fast. They walk like they're rushing to get out of everyone's way. They keep adjusting clothing, hair, or objects around them. They hug their phones like a shield, not because they're weak, but because they think existing requires permission. Confidence doesn't begin with power poses or fake boldness. It begins with removing the signals that apologize for your existence. Try this. Before walking into a room, pause and take one slow breath. Drop your shoulders not back aggressively, just down and relaxed. Put your phone away. Walk in at a steady, unrushed pace. Make brief, soft eye contact with whoever notices you. That tiny shift changes everything, not because others suddenly treat you differently, but because you treat yourself differently. Your nervous system receives a new message. I belong here. And once your body believes that, your mind follows, because presence is louder than words every time. Stop reacting, start leading. Here's one of the most dangerous truths most people never realize. Your reactions teach the world how to treat you. If every insult makes you explode, people will use anger to control you. If every disagreement makes you panic, people will use silence to punish you. If every opinion affects your mood, people will weaponize approval. Reaction is vulnerability, not emotional vulnerability, but power vulnerability. When someone can predict your response, they can manipulate your life. That's why unshakable confidence requires becoming emotionally unpredictable, not unstable but steady. Imagine this: someone tries to embarrass you in front of others. Most people would defend themselves instantly. What? No, that's not true. Suddenly, you're validating the attack by responding to it. Now rewind, same insult, same room, but this time you look at them calmly and say nothing. Not because you're defeated, but because the moment doesn't deserve your energy. Now they panic, because silence forces people to sit with their own behavior. That's leadership, and it doesn't require authority, titles, or speeches. It requires choosing your response instead of surrendering it. So the question isn't, how do I stop reacting? The real question is, what outcome do I want and which response leads me there? Once you start thinking like that, your emotional life becomes strategy, not survival. You stop being played. You start directing the energy in every room you enter. Make discomfort your training ground. People romanticize confidence as if it arrives magically like sunshine after rain. But confidence doesn't come from success. It comes from surviving discomfort. Think about the first time you drove a car. Your hands were tight on the steering wheel. Your heart was racing. Every pedestrian felt like a threat. Every lane change felt like a leap of faith. Now you drive while eating, singing, checking directions, thinking about 20 other things. What changed? Familiarity. Your brain learned. I didn't die. That's how confidence is built, through exposure, not avoidance. But most people avoid anything that triggers discomfort: speaking up, asking questions, trying something new, meeting new people, setting boundaries, saying no. Saying yes, then they wonder why confidence never arrives. Because comfort never shaped anyone into someone they admired. So start treating discomfort like a gym. The more you lift it, the stronger you become. Not huge steps, small ones. Share your opinion once in a group. Attend an event alone and stay 10 extra minutes. Ask a question you think sounds dumb. Say no without an essay afterward. Tell someone the truth even if your voice shakes. Every time you choose discomfort intentionally, you collect evidence. I can handle life. And that evidence stacks quietly until one day you wake up and do things that used to terrify you without thinking twice. Confidence isn't an identity, it's a habit. Speak less, command more, look around. The person talking the most is rarely the person with the most influence. Why? Because constant talking signals insecurity. Please don't misunderstand me. Please agree with me. Please see my value. Meanwhile, the person who listens more than they speak, who waits before responding, who chooses words intentionally, becomes magnetic. Silence builds authority, stillness builds curiosity, pauses build tension, the good kind. The book teaches a powerful communication shift. Stop trying to win conversations. Start trying to own your presence within them. Instead of filling every silence, let silence make your words heavier. Instead of rambling, answer in one clear sentence. Instead of defending, ask, what made you see it that way? Instead of rushing, slow your breath and speak on the exhale. When someone interrupts you, don't raise your voice, lower it. Powerful people don't fight for space, they assume they already have it. Try this in your next conversation. When someone asks you a question, wait 1 second before responding, just 1 second. Watch how differently they treat your answer. Because confidence isn't loud, it's deliberate. And if this entire journey is connecting with you, if you feel something waking up inside you, if you want more books that change how you think, speak, and live, take a second to subscribe. You'll never miss the next life-changing book. Because growth shouldn't be accidental, it should be intentional. The illusion of constant participation. Most people believe they must respond to everything, every rude comment, every rumor, every misunderstanding, every invitation, every emotional request, every expectation, but that belief steals more confidence than failure ever will. Because when you respond to everything, you're not choosing, you're reacting, and reaction is surrender. The truth is you're allowed to ignore things that don't honor your peace. You're allowed to walk away mid-confrontation. You're allowed to block someone without explaining. You're allowed to leave messages unanswered. You're allowed to disappoint people who expect too much. Not everything deserves closure. Not everything deserves clarity. Not everything deserves an audience. Sometimes confidence looks like saying nothing and moving on. The moment you stop needing to have the last word, you become untouchable, because nothing pulls you into emotional battles you never agreed to fight. Emotional neutrality. The quiet superpower. Confidence doesn't mean you don't feel things. You will still get hurt, annoyed, disappointed, uncomfortable. But emotional maturity means you don't let those feelings speak on your behalf. You buy yourself time, space, and clarity before responding. Neutrality doesn't mean indifference, it means intention. It means, I will choose my response instead of letting the moment choose it for me. You don't send the angry text. You don't scream to prove a point. You don't panic when life gets inconvenient. You don't assume rejection means you're unworthy. You breathe, you observe, you evaluate, you decide. Confidence isn't knowing everything will go your way, it's knowing you'll stay grounded even if it doesn't. That calmness is rare and therefore powerful. Presence becomes your reputation when you start living like this, with emotional steadiness, grounded body language, intentional silence, chosen responses. People feel it. They may not say it out loud, but they notice. You don't chase, you don't panic, you don't overshare, you don't overexplain, you don't crumble. You move with certainty even when uncertain. And soon you stop introducing yourself. Your energy does it for you. People invite you into rooms not because you're loud, but because your presence stabilizes the space. That's influence not earned through performance, but through discipline. You've now stepped deeper into the world of dangerous, unshakable confidence. You've learned that confidence isn't something you display, it's something you embody. In your posture, in your silence, in your boundaries, in your emotional responses, in the way you choose discomfort instead of avoiding it. What comes next is even more powerful, turning rejection into momentum, protecting your peace with boundaries, staying calm through chaos, mastering skills that make confidence effortless, and ultimately learning how to live like you need nothing. Whenever you're ready, we continued. By now, something inside you has started to shift. You're becoming more aware of the moments when you give your power away. You're noticing when silence feels stronger than reacting. You're seeing where you've been apologizing for simply existing. And maybe, just maybe, you're beginning to realize that confidence isn't something other people hand you. It's something you build quietly, privately, consistently. Now we step into the final transformation, the kind of confidence that doesn't just look strong but lives strong. The kind that doesn't flinch when life gets unpredictable. The kind that learns from rejection instead of fearing it. The kind that can stand tall even when everything around feels uncertain. Let's begin. Rejection, the uncomfortable door to self-respect. Everyone remembers their first painful rejection. A college letter that never arrived. A job interview that ended with "we'll let you know." A person you cared about choosing someone else. A friend slowly drifting away. Rejection stings deeply. Not because of the loss itself, but because of what we attach to it. I wasn't good enough. I didn't matter. I should have been different. Rejection becomes a mirror we think reflects our worth. But what if rejection isn't a mirror? What if it's a compass? What if every no you've ever heard was redirecting you towards something or someone that is actually aligned with who you're becoming? Think about it. Every person you no longer speak to, every job you didn't get, every opportunity that slipped through your hands led you to a different room, a different moment, a different version of yourself. Rejection isn't a closed door, it's a hallway, but only if you keep walking. The book reframes rejection into something powerful. Rejection is not personal, it's directional. The world isn't saying you're not enough. It's saying not here. And if you listen closely, that's a gift. Because nothing builds confidence like realizing that what didn't choose you wasn't meant to sustain you. So instead of asking, why wasn't I chosen? Ask, what did this rejection just save me from? A draining relationship. A company that burns people out, a friendship built on convenience. A life path you weren't meant to carry. Rejection isn't a punishment. It's protection disguised as disappointment. And if you're still here, still trying, still learning, join this journey. Subscribe, because growth deserves company. Boundaries, the security system of confidence. Confidence isn't loud. Confidence isn't aggressive. Confidence is calm enough to say, no, not for me, without guilt, without apology, without explaining. Most people don't struggle with boundaries because they're weak. They struggle because they were raised to believe that saying no makes them selfish, rude, cold, dramatic, ungrateful. So they say yes constantly. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I have time. Yes, that's fine. Yes, I'll tolerate it. Until resentment quietly builds inside them like pressure in a closed bottle. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors with locks. You decide who enters. You decide how long they stay. You decide how they treat you while they're there. The book offers a powerful mindset shift. Every boundary you set tells the world how to love you. If you let people interrupt you, they will. If you let people speak to you disrespectfully, they will. If you let people drain you emotionally, they will. Not because they're evil, but because you allowed it. Boundaries don't protect you from others, they protect you from abandoning yourself. So start with small boundaries. I'm not available tonight. Please don't joke about that. I don't discuss my personal life at work. Let me get back to you later. Notice, no apologies. No over-explaining, no nervous laughter, just clarity. The people who truly care about you will adjust. The people who only benefited from your lack of boundaries will complain, and those reactions tell you everything. Because confidence isn't just knowing your worth, it's enforcing it. Chaos. The final testing ground. It's easy to appear confident when life is smooth, when money is stable, relationships are calm, and tomorrow feels predictable. But true confidence reveals itself in chaos, when the unexpected happens, when plans fall apart, when someone you trusted hurts you, when life throws something you didn't see coming. Chaos exposes the truth. Do you control your emotions, or do your emotions control you? Picture a storm, rain hammering the ground, wind ripping through everything, trees bending, windows shaking. Most people become the storm. Their mind spirals. Their heart races. Their decisions become reactive, desperate, frantic, but the confident person, the truly confident person, becomes the eye of the storm. Still, steady, grounded, breathing. Not because they're unaffected, but because they've learned that chaos doesn't deserve instant access to their peace. They don't argue while angry. They don't reply to emotional texts immediately. They don't make decisions based on panic. They don't speak just to release tension. They pause not to avoid reality but to regain power. Confidence doesn't eliminate chaos. Confidence outlasts it, because storms always end, but how you show up during them changes everything. Skill, the invisible backbone of certainty. There's a kind of confidence people never talk about, the quiet, unshakable kind that comes from competence. Not affirmations, not compliments, not motivation, skill. The ability to do something well because you've practiced, failed, learned, repeated, refined. A surgeon doesn't need pep talks before operating. A pilot doesn't need motivational quotes before takeoff. A carpenter doesn't need applause before building. They trust themselves because their skill is proof. Confidence built on skill lasts longer than confidence built on praise, which is why the book emphasizes something simple but life-changing. Train privately for the life you want publicly. Read when no one sees. Practice when no one cares. Improve when no one is clapping. Study when no one is asking. Confidence isn't created in moments of performance. It's revealed there. If you want to feel confident speaking, speak. If you want to feel confident dating, meet people. If you want to feel confident at work, learn relentlessly. If you want to feel confident socially, interact more. Not perfectly, consistently. Mastery doesn't announce itself. It settles quietly in your posture, your decisions, your tone. Confidence becomes effortless when skill becomes automatic. The freedom of needing nothing. There is a level of confidence beyond calmness, beyond silence, beyond boundaries, beyond leadership. It's rare because most people never reach it. It's the confidence that comes when you stop needing anything from anyone, not out of bitterness, not out of ego, out of fullness. When you no longer need approval, you show up authentically. When you no longer need validation, you speak honestly. When you no longer need reassurance, you walk into rooms differently. When you no longer fear losing people, you choose relationships that nourish you, not drain you. When you no longer depend on outcomes, you take bigger, bolder, freer action. Imagine living life without emotional hunger, without the constant craving for applause, attention, agreement, permission. Imagine knowing if you stay good. If you leave good, either way I remain me. That is the final stage of dangerous confidence, the kind that cannot be manipulated, pressured, or controlled. Because the most powerful person in any room is the one who doesn't need to be there. The quiet transformation when you live this way, subtle things begin to shift around you, people speak to you with more respect. Opportunities come to you instead of being chased. Arguments die before reaching your doorstep. Your presence calms others. Your reputation changes even without your effort. Your life becomes simpler, cleaner, lighter. You no longer fear losing everything because you've already built the one thing that truly matters, yourself. Not the polished version, not the impressive version, not the advertised version, the grounded version, the steady version, the one who belongs to you, not the world. Confidence stops being a goal. It becomes a lifestyle, a way of breathing, a way of choosing, a way of existing. The most important reminder: confidence doesn't mean you never feel insecure. It doesn't mean you never get nervous. It doesn't mean you never care what others think. It means those feelings no longer control you. You feel them and still choose yourself. You feel them and still speak honestly. You feel them and still show up fully. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving with fear and refusing to shrink for its comfort. And that, more than any technique, lesson, or philosophy, is real confidence, choosing yourself over your fear. Again and again and again. The journey continues. You are not the same person who began this story. Something inside you is standing taller. Not loudly, not aggressively, just unmistakably. You've learned that confidence starts quietly, in the mind, in the body, in the boundaries, in the way you talk to yourself, in the way you refuse to react. You've learned that rejection doesn't define you, discomfort strengthens you, skill stabilizes you, and needing nothing frees you. You've learned that the world can only take what you hand it. And now you're learning to keep what matters. If you're still here, it means you're growing. Join this journey, subscribe, because confidence is not a destination, it's a practice, a daily remembering: I belong here, my peace is mine, my worth isn't up for negotiation. I decide who I become. And every time you choose that truth, you step deeper into the most powerful version of yourself. Not loud, not performative, not dramatic, untouchable. This is Rewired Reader, where information becomes transformation.